Perfect. We are now recording. So, welcome back, everybody, to week 3 of the Beyond Medication Wellness series. This one is called Beat the Freeze. If you have tuned in the last 2 weeks, you saw a different presenter. So we are welcoming, we had a great time with Jenny the first 2 sessions, and now her colleague Nate Coomer is here to present session 3, which is going to be all about cognition. So if you are watching this video week 3 and have not watched 1 and 2, I recommend you pause this one and go back to the first 2. So this will live on in perpetuity, so you can revisit these skills and concepts time after time. So I am just going to turn it over to Nate Coomer. I'm going to let Nate introduce himself to you, and I am going to disappear to be the wizard behind the curtains, and then we will get this show on the road. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here. Thank you, Nate, for coming and sharing your amazing knowledge and your enthusiasm on this topic. So take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to disappoint you. For those of you that were logging in hoping to see Jenny, I'll try to make it worth your while, but I know it's a high bar to hit. She did a great job the first 2 weeks. It's nice to see some familiar faces in here, and even a few people from the Netherlands. That's awesome. You guys, Wim, good to see you, man. Bill, good to see you too. I was sitting face to face with you in the screen view before, and I felt right at home. So anyhow, my name is Nate Coomer. I'm a physical therapist and owner of the Parkinson's Fitness Project. We're here in our Bellevue clinic today. The series we've been doing, I think, is really, really cool. This is the first time we've ever done like a 4-part series on any topic, and I think it really gives us time to kind of break apart and give you good information on all the different areas that account for freezing and how we deal with it in the clinic. So today, one of those areas that we're going to talk about is cognition, and we work cognition into any session because it's so highly correlated with falls and balance, which we'll talk about today. But there's specific areas of cognition that we're always working on, and there's some very specific kind of unique areas that account for some of the reasons why people fall when they freeze, or why people freeze. So hopefully after today, we'll give you some more information on that, and you'll feel a little bit more in control and learn some ways to actually carry some of the demonstrations that we give today over into real life. So I am going to try to share my screen, and hopefully we can get on this slideshow. Jen, just tell me if I screwed something up.
So far, so good.
Okay, I'm going to move my faces around so I don't see. Okay, and then we're going to share. Oh, wait, cancel, done. No, I want a slideshow. I want to present this. Oh, boy. I don't want that. I just want this. Okay, I'm going to go back. Whoa, oh, man, I'm giving it all away. Okay, phew. Hopefully you all blinked really quick and didn't see any of that. So I'm a physical therapist. I graduated from Northwestern a long, long time ago. I have a power training, which is a Parkinson's wellness recovery training, and an LSVT training. Those letters just mean I took some time. I got certified in Parkinson's specific exercise. I also have a neurologic clinical specialty, which is just the pretty way of the the Physical Therapy Association saying, hey, this guy knows about Parkinson's and strokes and brain injuries and those kind of things and has worked with them. So, like I said, we are the Parkinson's Fitness Project. You can see some pictures of what we do and some of our favorite folks achieving great things, even with Parkinson's. The disease does not define you. We try to have fun, and we try to make people empowered. Cognitive training and exercise. So my objectives today are to help you learn the basic research behind exercise and cognitive changes and how the exercise helps understand cognition and attention, how cognition and attention affects balance and gait and freezing, and understand the specific areas of cognition that are important to train to reduce falls and reduce fascination and freezing and those episodes that we sometimes fall into, and then to show some demonstrations, which I think is always the funnest part. If you guys have seen my demonstrations before when I just talked about exercise, we're not just going to do the boxing one today. So you'll see other stuff. Woo, this is exciting. So basically, we already, this is just why exercise for brain change. Why do we exercise for Parkinson's? Lots of different factors that change when we're exercising regularly without cognitive dual tasking. We increase the neuron size and speed of transmission. There's increased excitation in the brain, and especially in the motor cortex, to create brain adaptation and neuroplasticity. We increase blood flow, which also increases the amount of oxygen we bring to our brain and other nutrients, and it helps clear out wastes like alpha-synuclein and those proteins that build up. We create something called BDNF, which is a protein that bathes our neurons and bathes the nerve cells so that we can transmit signals easier and more accurately. And we also have increased dopamine receptors, so we can uptake that dopamine that we still have left in our brain and use it for good. So there's lots of great reasons why we exercise consistently, but why do we exercise and use cognition? So hopefully I can explain this in a little better. And I think this picture, you guys should all know this picture, right? Some of you might be, too young, right? You all seem so young and youthful, you might even know who these guys are, but it's the Beatles. And I thought this picture really defines something that we don't think about as cognitive. And I'll come back to it later after I talk about cognition and exercise. So I don't go through a lot of research. I mean, I understand the research, but when I talk, I always have trouble kind of going through each research paper and trying to explain. I kind of get stuck over my words a little bit trying to explain this stuff. So bear with me, but I hope I can at least make the case for why cognition is important. So this study was just a systematic review looking at a lot of papers on the influence of fall, why people fear falls and the quality of life in older folks. And they found that fear of falling, when we fall, often we kind of build up this fear and hesitancy towards mobility. And it's negatively associated with quality of life. That fear restricts our activity, it restricts our independence, and we notice a cognitive and physical decline is also associated with falls. That cognitive decline is important. Now, I'm talking about falls, but we know freezing of gait causes a lot of falls. So, and at the end of the day, as physical therapists, we're trying to keep people as independent as possible, and we know when falls start to creep in, that feeling of independence and feeling of that high quality of life starts to go down. So we need to do all we can to improve that. So that's where cognition and cognition and exercise come in. What factors cause falls or freezing of gait is one of them. You can see looking at a large study that looked at, what are the factors involved with why people fall with Parkinson's. The freezing of gait is one of the top reasons why people do have falls. Impaired anticipatory and reactionary balance. Those are big words. It just means I can tell when somebody's about to knock me off balance and my body's reacting already. I'm bracing for that. Or I can tell when I'm walking on a slanted curb or a slanted ramp or a slanted sidewalk, and I can adjust my body in anticipation that I'm going to maybe lose my balance if I don't. And then reactionary balance is when I get knocked in a crowded setting, I get knocked off balance. Can I take that step and regain my balance? Impaired orientation and visual spatial awareness is another area that causes us to lose our balance and have falls. So you can think of orientation, visual spatial awareness, knowing how much room I have before I come up to the countertop, knowing how much room I have before I go to sit down. That also is impaired when we freeze and festinate, because if you notice, a lot of people will freeze most when they're coming up to a chair. going to take those last 2 steps. It's like that visual spatial awareness of how much room I have until I get to the chair is impaired and causes them to kind of shuffle, freeze, and and causes balance issues. And then overall impaired cognition has a role to play in falls. So I wrote down in that impaired anticipatory and reactionary balance, that's really our attention. Our attention and our reaction time are impacted. Those are areas of cognition. Orientation and visual spatial awareness, that is also a cognitive process that we train in here. So we're going to talk about a lot of that today. Cognitive training can improve freezing of gait. We've learned that through the research. This study in particular had people working for half an hour 4 times a week, so 2 hours each week for 7 weeks on areas of cognition that we'll learn about later: shifting, inhibition, working memory, processing speed, visual spatial skills. And they found that when they had them walk and time their walking test, this tug is a timed up and go we do all the time. It's where a person stands, walks 10 feet, turns around, comes back and has a seat. So you have standing, turning, transitions, sitting, standing, and walking all included. All the places people tend to freeze. They looked at how often people were freezing before and after the training and found that significantly reduced compared to people that did not do the cognitive training. So cognition has a role to play. I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to skip through a couple of these. Well, actually, I'll stick on this one because this one's interesting, talking about gait variability, how we adjust our walking speed to the environment around us. When somebody's walking really slowly in front of us, when our spouse is picking up the speed and we have to stick with them, we're late to a plane, have to really pick up the pace. How we change our gait variability. Cognition was assessed in areas of attention, executive function, different areas. But they found that gait variability, our ability to turn, was strongly associated with attention and executive function. Frontal lobe ability, decision-making skills were highly associated with our ability to safely change our pace and turn, where a lot of times that's where people will get stuck. And so interesting. And cognition and mobility are really this our ability to get around the world independently and safely is really correlated with our physical skills, physical strength, and mobility, along with our cognitive decision making. And so it's this combination that we try to work on in exercise and therapy sessions, and we try to have people working on at home too, because we know that's what the real world requires. And we know with Parkinson's, most people do have some sort of mild cognitive decline. And so we need to try to prevent this and keep our brains working as sharply as possible, so that we're ready when unexpected things happen in the real world. And that's basically what this is saying. We need to be ready to adjust on the fly and adapt. And I hope you guys are making that connection now, like, oh yeah, it's not just a physical thing. I freeze when somebody walks in front of me. I freeze when I can't figure out how many more steps I have to get to the couch or to get to the bed. I freeze when it's really, really stimulating. I had a patient this past Friday who's doing pretty well, but is starting to have some freezing. And he went on a trip to Norway. And he was talking about the airport, having the luggage pulling behind him, having a backpack on, trying to figure out where his gate was on his cell phone, people walking all over the place. That cognitive load changed his ability to move. And he said it was like I was freezing all the time. I could not stop. And so we know we have to train that in some ways. So now looking at this picture, there's a lot of cognition involved. The guy in the denim outfit in the back, I'm bad. I think that's not Ringo, right? John's up front. We got Paul McCartney's the third guy. So then George Harrison. That's right, Joan. I saw you say that. You said George. I was George Harrison. So Ringo's second then, right? Is Ringo second? Okay. So George has to pay attention to those 3 guys in front of him. He's got to pay attention to how fast they're walking, whether they change their speed or not. He's on a busy street. There might be a biker coming from the other direction nobody sees. He's got to be able to adjust on the fly if he sees that coming. He's got all these changes in in texture of the road, white, black, white, black, white, black. Sometimes that can cause freezing and confusion for the patient that freezes. So there's a lot of cognition in George's movement to get across that street at the same pace as all the other three. So now you understand the Beatles were really teaching us all about walking and movement in this picture, and it should just blow your mind. So cognitive training with exercise, we know from what I've just told you, we improve freezing and gait, we decrease risk of falls, we improve processing speed, we improve balance, we improve task prioritization, which I'll talk about more. That's a really important thing, is learning when I have to put the cell phone down and just focus on my steps. And we improve visual spatial awareness. Now, how do we work on cognitive dual tasking? Gait and balance require executive, blah, 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 blah. I think this is just saying what I've already told you. We have to work in three big areas with cognition. Some of it is just distraction and divided attention, that attention at the top. A lot of times we're just giving people simple tasks to think about in their head. Say as many words as you can that start with the letter S. Name off things you bring to the beach while you're doing this exercise. That's just kind of dividing your attention and seeing if you can continue to move with adequate size and quality and safe movement, which we need to work on. We need to work on with our exercise. Executive function is a little bit different. That's our safety net. That's our decision making, so that we don't just, I've had like a great example. I had a patient that had such trouble with inhibition that he was on a hike towards the end of the day, coming down to the parking lot. He was descending, and he could feel his steps were getting faster and faster and faster. He could not pull himself back to put on the brakes and stop, and ended up just getting away from the horse more and more and more. Did not inhibit, and then had a really major fall where he fell straight forward onto his face. Being able to inhibit and stop ourselves before we get going too fast or take things too far. When we're freezing, there's this tendency to want to, I got to push through this. And I know my feet are stuck, but I'm just going to keep trying. And my anxiety goes up. In those moments, we need the executive function, the inhibition to say, wait a second, let me take a deep breath and let me relax and then work on my weight shifting and those other things. That's where executive function is really important. And we need to work on inhibition. And then visual spatial awareness, being able to work on, how things fit together and mold, using our mind in those areas is really important, so that when we come up to that chair, we're not getting stuck 2 steps before and just diving into it. And we actually take the next 2 steps. So, and then I have set shifting listed up here under attention. We'll talk more about that, but that's really our ability to read different signs. So I'm walking out. I always use the example. It's easy. Walking across the street, you get your walking signal, your walk sign comes, but all of a sudden you go to step out, your motor plan is going, and you see somebody darting past you, or you see a biker coming, and he doesn't look like he's going to stop at the stop sign, and he looks like he's coming right into you. So what do you do? What do you do? Do you just keep moving, let your motor plan go, or do you react? Do you inhibit? Do you shift your plan and then step backwards instead of stepping forward? So those kind of things are what we're talking about. Like I said, with set shifting, I think I explained it pretty well, but now I'm going to give you some examples. So changing path or turning quickly in response to an unexpected obstacle, changing speed like George Harrison was doing in response to what Paul McCarthy. If Paul McCarthy puts on the brakes, does George Harrison put on the brakes? Does he change what he was doing? Does he change his motor plan in time? Does he divert around him? Those are the things we need to do with set shifting. Or just like, you're walking smoothly through a grocery store while people are talking to you. You have to keep going back and forth or thinking about the grocery list and keep taking big steps. So it's this constant back and forth that we have to do in our brain. And I'm going to give you a couple examples now. So we'll start off with one that's easy. You guys can join me. You don't have to stand. You can just use your hands. I'm going to give you some cues. We've got In, out, up, and down. This is fun. You can join in, but if you're someone that has trouble with your balance, make sure you're holding on to something, make sure you're safe. If you don't feel like you can do this in standing, you can simply just, when I say in, we put one hand in. If I say right, we go right. If I say left, we go left. If I say out, we put our hand back behind us. If I say up, we go up. And if I say down, we squat down. Now, if you feel comfortable, you can take that step in to the side or back behind you and go up and down. I'm going to turn around so I don't confuse you with right and left. So I want you to repeat it after me. If I say in, we're all going to step in and say in. If I say right, we're all going to step right and say right. Okay, so I want you to say it nice and loud. In, out, out,
out,
right, right,
right,
left,
left,
down, down, up,
up.
up. Good job. You all did it. Well, now you have to say what I say, but move the opposite way. So this is like rubbing your head and patting your belly. So if I say down, you're going to say the word down, but move up. If I say right, you're going to say right, but move left. Okay, so this is really that set shift that we're talking about. Let's see if you can do it. So we'll start off up, up, left, left, in, down, down. Stop there. So you see that dissonance that happens in your brain, like it's confusing, but you know you have to process through this and think through the rules and think a little bit more abstractly. So that's one easy example. We do that in the clinic. Something you could do at home very easily as well. Just have your spouse or your loved one call out some directions and you make up the rules. I have to say the same, do the opposite. Or I have to do the opposite, or say the opposite and do the same. So you can switch it a couple different ways, but ways to practice set shifting. We also have grids that we put up in the gym. These are very simple. You could just write. You could write this up at home on a piece of paper. You could just have directions: right, forward, left, back, left, forward, and just use different ink for every word. I have the background in different ink here, but you could use different ink for every word. And then we're going to try it one time through. I'm going to have you guys do it with me. I'm actually, I'm going to step back and try to give you enough room so you can see my whole body this time. Hopefully the sound still carries. But we're going to talk through this together. And I know I'm reading it with you, so I'm going to be a little confusing because I'm going to step to the right, but it's going to look like left to you. I'm sorry. I just want you guys to read them out. First time through from top to bottom. So we have right forward. That's your right foot stepping forward. Left back. I don't have enough room. Left back. Left forward. Right side. Left forward. Right side. Right back. Right foot back. Left foot back. Left foot side. Easy enough. Now I want you to say the word right or left on the left-hand column, and then say the color in the background on the right-hand column as you step in that direction. So you're not going to say forward, you're going to say right green for the first line, okay? So we're going to try that all the way through. Saying the foot, but saying the background on the right-hand column. So the first line would say right green, left purple, pink, whatever you want to call that, left, red, right, blue, left, red, right, blue, right, orange, left, pink, left, yellow. So you see how that could be confusing. And we're using movement with it. And the fun thing about that is you'll notice when you have these movements that you're not expecting, That's where we can kind of hesitate. That's where our brain can get confused and our feet can almost get stuck. So we're practicing making those big movements even when we're a little bit distracted and really having to set shift. And this is what helps us get past those moments when we might freeze, when we're confused or distracted in the real world. So we're really practicing for the real world. I have a couple different videos here. I'll share this first one. This is a gentleman working on stepping drills. Hopefully it'll. Ooh. So I hope you guys can hear.
There's no sound, Nate, but we can see it.
Okay. So what I'm working on there is I'm telling him, I'm saying like blue right. So I want him to step to the color, that blue dot, and raise his right hand. So I'm calling off the dot and the hand I want him to raise. So it gets confusing when he's going from side to side. Like I might say yellow right. So he's stepping with his left foot to the yellow dot, but he has to raise his right hand. Or green left. He's stepping to the green dot, has to raise his left hand. So we're having him do different things with his arms and legs, and that creates a set shift. So I'll play a couple more. I don't think the others have as much sound with them. This is another one where a person has to decide on the fly using an agility ladder. He can't step on the squares where the dots are, and he's jumping through this. So if there's a dot in the square, he has to stay wide. Well, he messed up there. So he steps back and goes back in, gets out. So feet go in when there's an empty square, feet go out when there's a square with a dot in it filled. So there's no pattern to this. He has to just adjust on the fly. This is you adjusting as people walk past you. And you can see he kind of made the cognitive change there on the fly, or he didn't make the change, had to go back and readjust. So another idea to give you these grids that we use. There's plenty of ways to challenge outside. Jumping with arrows. This is another higher level task, but it can be stepping with arrows. We're using the agility ladder again. And here you can see he's got arrows on the ground. They are going to tell him which way to put one foot out. And we'll do this with stepping as well, just walking and putting one foot out, one foot in. But the arrow is pointing in a certain direction. If there's no arrow, his feet have to be in the square. If there's an arrow, the foot to the side where the arrow is pointing has to be out. Just giving you some different ideas of what we're doing here. It's another one with walking. Just walking on a treadmill at a fast pace. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. That wasn't what I wanted. But I think it's on here later. This is another way that people will use at home. They'll just create a paper or a big map with letters and numbers. Has to be the same amount. So if you do 13 numbers, 1 through 13, your letters would go to M. M is halfway through the alphabet, and that's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, M. And you're just, as you're practicing, maybe you're doing lateral. I'll have people with a laser pointer just going from 1A, 2B, 3C, as they're maybe doing something like sit to stands or sidestepping from side to side. So doing a cognitive task while you're doing a physical task, just another example. This is the video. These are called flankers. This is another set shifting task in the brain. So we just create a slideshow of different colored arrows. Any arrow that's colored red, the patient has to reach in the opposite direction. If the arrow is blue, the patient has to reach in the same direction. So as he's walking, he's getting these confusing signals, and he has to remember the rules in place while taking nice big steps. So just another example of creating that dissonance or confusion and seeing if we can still take large steps even while we're focused and our attention is kind of divided on something else. because that's what we need to do in the real world when things get very busy and stimulating, like that gentleman in the airport I was talking about. So now inhibition tasks. This is kind of different than that set shifting, which is one unique area. Inhibition is the other. And like I said, this is George Harrison holding himself back and not just running into Paul McCartney when Paul starts to slow down. It's your ability to adjust to others around you and slow yourself down. Some examples up above. We use a lot of go practices in here, but I just took a weekend course, and so we'll do a couple goes and nos because they're fun. And then I'm going to have you guys do something else that will also cause inhibition, okay? Is everybody having fun? Oh, yeah, look at you all. I can just see it. Golly. Nothing better than cognitive training after lunch, right? Okay, so goes and nos. This is punching, easy. I'm going to call off the punch. I want you guys to throw the punch. You don't even have to stand up. So we're going to start. I'm going to turn my body around so I'm not confusing you. I've got rights and lefts. If I say right, go, we're just going to throw a straight punch. If I say left, go, we throw the punch. Okay, is everybody ready? Right. Joan, you got to wait for my go. All right, ready? Right. Go. Left, go. Left, go. Right, go. Left. Bill, don't throw the punch. You got to wait for my go. All right, here we go. Let's try it again. Right, go. Left, go. Right, go. Left. I didn't say go. Just because I threw the punch doesn't mean you throw the punch. Remember the rules, people. So that go and no, holding back. Wait a second. This guy's trying to bait me. I've got to think about what he's trying to do. This guy's slowing down in front of me. I need to slow down or else my forehead's going to be in his back. It's that kind of executive function and inhibition that what we need with inhibition. So now another fun one. This is going to be inhibiting your voice, but we're still challenging the same areas. So we're going to have 4 movements. One hand forward. Second hand forward. Third hand side. Fourth hand side. I want you to say these words with me. A, B, C, D. Keep it going. A, B, C, D. Keep it going. A, B, say it. C, D. Now leave out the C. Ready? Go. A, B, D, A, B, D, A, B, D. Good job. Now I want you to leave out the B and then give me a word that starts with D, like dog. So every time we come to the D, I want another D word out of your mouth, okay? So you've got to inhibit and not say B. You're still going to move the B hand. C is back in play. We're saying C. And then we have to say a D word like dog, okay? So we've got A, C, dad. A, C, did. A, C, do. A, C, dial. So keyword it's a lot more challenging than you would think because your brain is going back and forth. You have to inhibit your voice from saying one word, and then you have to come up with a word finding task as well and keep moving your hands. And that's a lot of like, you know, my wife's talking to me as I'm trying to complete a text and the kids are running over to the park and I'm trying to tell them something at the same time. There's so much going on in your head, but that's really what we deal with in real life. Okay, so I don't know what this video is. Hopefully it's a go. Oh, this is inhibition in real life. So we did this in our class. JG, you're in this video. You want to come see it? Yeah. Jeanette's our office coordinator, and she's been working on our classes forever. This was like 2019 or 20. So we had each player in our group class. Hi, JG. This is JG. Don't you all? She's in the blue right there. But these are some of my favorite people. They started our first class together. These lights, each player has a light. They have to hit as many lights out as they can with this group running around. Talk about kind of stress inducing. Can you move with big steps? Can you make big turns? Can you beat the other competitors? This is a tournament, and we need to move with big steps. Everybody did a great job. No one was injured during the filming of that task. Don't try that at home by yourself. We made sure we were set up for success, but that's like real life inhibition right there. Like, whoop, I've got to get around this person. That's set shifting. You turn quick and somebody's right in your face. Whoop, what am I going to do? Right? So we've got to practice that stuff. Spatial training. This is kind of like mental imagery of the world around you. One of the easy I remember a patient of mine said, I knew I had Parkinson's because I had trouble backing my car into stalls. And that's a great example of visual spatial training, trying to back yourself in using your mirrors. So easy ways to work on visual spatial training. We'll have patients use like Jenga. Jenga is a great task where you have to figure out how to manipulate the block piece. Or Tetris, which is a Nintendo game, but you can download it on all kinds of phone apps now. We have this puzzle building deal called Buildsy. It's very basic. It's just got different Lego blocks, basically, and they give you an image, and you have to try to recreate that image by putting these different blocks in order to build a tower. So that's what I'm talking about there. They come up with there's 60 different ways you can build these towers. And so it always challenges your brain a little bit as you're working on it. Clock imaging is another great task. There's an app called Clock Yourself. I believe I have it on my phone. I know I do somewhere. Let me look for it. Clock. There it is. So the app, I know you guys can't see. It's very simple. You can pick the level that you want to work out at. This is free. You can start with, simple colors, simple clock. And it's going to give you on a timer, it's going to tell you different places to step to. So it'll say like 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. And you're standing and you have to step to where that hour hand would be. And as you move along with it, it gets more and more complex. Like it'll add extra rules in, like you have to do a bicep curl while you step, or it'll mix up the clock numbers. So 3 is now where 11 o'clock would be, and 11 is where 3 would be. And so it's confusing you, but you still have to keep your visual spatial awareness and work on it. It's a nice app, pretty easy. But another one that we have spouses do is mirroring. So visual spatial training. So you guys have to mirror me. Your hands have to look like my hands. How many fingers am I holding up on each hand? How many feet do I have? Do I have my toes on the ground? Those types of things. I'm making different body positions, and you have to try to mirror that. And we have spouses do that quite a bit as a way to work on visual spatial training. So just some ideas there. So this is a good slide with a bunch of take home, okay, all those videos were neat, Nate, but I don't have agility ladders and colored dots at home. So things you can do for mental flexibility. This is like when you're out for your walk, when you're on your bike. How do you divide your attention with a simple distractionary task? So these are just categories. You can do word recall. I'm going to go for 10. I'm going to try to come up with 10 words that start with the first 10 letters of the alphabet. So let's start with A, apple, and, Android. You're coming up with as many words as you can as you're walking and trying to maintain your speed while you do it. And then you go to B, and then you go to C. You could do serial counting. That's another one that's been studied, where I'm going to start with any three-digit number, so 175, and I'm going to subtract by something that's difficult for me. It might be subtracting by 3s, 4s. Try to keep going up. Maybe 6s, 7s, 8s. Subtracting by 9s, super tough. Can you go through and make that mental math to get all the way down to the 0 while keeping the same RPMs on your bike, right? Or while keeping the same speed going while you're walking. It's about being able to move just as efficiently with as without the cognitive dual task. Alphabetical list. Trees in alphabetical order, spices in alphabetical order, clothing, things I'd bring to a beach, boys and girls' names in alphabetical order, cities, states, countries, European Union countries, cities in Europe. You can go through cities and towns in Washington State. We can go with rivers in alphabetical order. You'd be amazed how many alphabetical order categories there are. But that's a great way to divert your attention and see if you can still keep up with your walking, trekking, pole, hiking, whatever you do for cardiovascular, and still distract your brain. Alphabet months backwards, that's another one we'll do, where you have to say, okay, start with Z and go all the way back to A. Start with December, go back to January. Months of the days of the week backwards. Alphabetical skipping. Start with A, go to C. Skip a letter every time. A, C, E, G, I. That's tough. Your brain has to keep paying attention to that and then go back to the movement that you're doing. Great way to distract you. But the key is not just doing these distractions, not paying attention to movement, really using them when you're on a cardiovascular activity, like a bike, like a walk, and seeing if you can maintain the same pace. That's the real challenge. Okay? Another thing you can do is I'll have people while they're warming up, like, tell me how to get from our location in Bellevue back to home. Describe the streets, describe every turn, and every stoplight you go through. Tell me what the stores are on each corner. So they're playing back this map in their mind and really detailing it while they're still, keeping their body moving. Or laying out the plan for the day. After today, I'm going to go have lunch with my wife, and then I have a doctor's appointment in the afternoon. I'm going to do some, going to the Goodwill after that to drop off some clothes, and then I've got to do some back to school shop, whatever it is. But you're thinking through this plan. It's a very distracting task. Trail making is another tough one. So you guys can be writing these down. These are really like take home. How do I get some cognitive dual tasking to my exercise? Another way you can do it is trail making. I start with A and letters. So alphabet and letters, I'm going back and forth. A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F6, G7. It gets harder as you go along. So you can do this with vegetables and fruits too. Maybe I name a vegetable, maybe I name a fruit. Vegetable, fruit, I have to keep going back and forth between two categories. So it's really jumping back and forth. It makes it difficult. The playing cards is another great different. You can use playing cards at home, much like we did with the goes and nos. So if you just want to have a people with a stack of cards, you lay one card down. If it's red, I'm going to large step to the right. Black, large step to the left. If it's a face card, I squat. And maybe you have a partner that can lay those cards out quickly, and so that you're always responding and having to think about which way you're stepping with a functional task. I went through that ins, outs, ups, and downs with you. It's another great way to kind of cognitively challenge yourself. Other ways that you can get this in classes. Boxing. You're working on a bunch of short-term memory, sequencing, steps that you have to repeat over and over and over again. So, dance, same kind of thing. That's part of, boxing seems like it's the special thing, but it's really just a lot of sequencing, got targeted movements, but you get it in other areas. Zumba, for example, there's a sequence that you're moving through, and it's always new and challenging, but you have to remember the sequence and go through it over and over and over again. So that short-term memory is being jogged all the time. Tai Chi, similar. There's a pace, there's a series of movements that we have to remember and flow them all together. Yoga, similar in the same way. So you're using your body, but you have to use your short-term memory as well and lots of arms and legs moving in complex patterns at the same time. Power moves, for those of you that might have done those, that same thing. We're working through different movements: squat, stand, shift, rotate, step. You have to kind of work through that sequence, and your mind is always humming while you're doing it. So these are great ways to get cognition in with any group class that you do. I already explained what we do here. We have our online platform called Daily Dose PD. I only say this because we do actually have a cognitive training area. It's got 19 short workouts on there that kind of go through a lot of this that we talked about today. If you're looking for, I think the cognitive area is always hard for people to kind of add into their daily life. So we put these on our online training platform. This you can check out if you want. It's dailydosepd.com. We also have yoga and boxing, and our AMP class always has cognitive challenges as well as our starter series. So there's a lot of videos that do add cognitive challenges in there. And it's free for 30 days if you want to try it. We don't want anybody to sign up and not feel like they're getting use out of it. So give it a shot. It's not for everybody, but it helps folks that feel comfortable using videos at home for workouts. So it's dailydosepd.com. Tai Chi is also on there. So I'm going to stop my share and open it up to any questions.
How is this feeling?
I see one from Ginny R. Is depth perception off in Parkinson's? Yes, it can be. That's the visual spatial awareness that we need to work on. Oftentimes when people get close to a chair, they don't realize they need 1 or 2 more steps to get into that seat safely. And that's where depth perception can come into play. Also, vision is off in Parkinson's as well. I mean, oftentimes the muscles that control our vision aren't working in coordination, and that can cause significant visual, spatial, and depth perception deficits. Do you need to do dual tasking? I would say yes. I think it needs to be a part of everybody's exercise program. But I would say, if you don't know how to get this in and you're just listening to this talk, I would really encourage you, if you feel like you have trouble with kind of slowness of mental processing or any of the stuff we talked about today, get in and see a physical therapist who can talk through how to add some cognitive dual challenges to your home program. Because you may be dealing with depth perception or visual spatial issues, and that's your significant area of impairment. Or maybe it's inhibition, and we need exercises that specifically target those areas and not maybe not others. So having a customized program that's set up for you is really important. Is it possible to improve walking? Oh, yeah. I think every new patient that we have come in here, I expect improvement. Now, I don't expect them to improve forever and ever and ever, but I expect them to make significant improvements over the first few months because we're focusing on new exercises and new areas that challenge their brain in new ways. When you're just in a rut and doing the same thing over and over and over again, no, I don't expect much change. But if you focus on new areas that challenge you in new and complex ways, then yeah, the brain can change and we should see improvements. I lead PD classes. Is it beneficial to make the class pick up tempo moves a little outside their comfort zone? As long as it's safe, yes. I think the more complex the pattern can be, the better. Now, you don't have to make them pick up tempo always. Maybe you add a cognitive challenges. Maybe you add voice in. We're doing these movements and we're talking together. Now you can't say the word forward. Now you have to come up. We're going to give letters to these movements, and you have to come up with words that come along with it. That challenges the cognition and the complexity of the exercise just as much. And I'd be willing to bet that those people would report just as much exertion when they're doing it. We will send out slides and a video. Yeah, the slides I have all have the links on them, so people should be able to, but they're all from my Instagram account, which might be difficult. Oh, not this video, not the videos I showed you. Okay, now I got it. Where can I find the physical therapist in my own area where can do things like you told us? Come on down, Kieran. Where do you live? I'm joking. But if you do live close, come here. If you don't live close to Bellevue or Seattle, you can always write Jen at the park at APDA Northwest to help you find a physical therapist in your area. Or
Yes, you
you can
can.
shoot us an email. You can shoot us an email as well. We're kind of connected with a lot of the PD, Parkinson specific PTs around the area. Generally, most hospital outpatient departments have neurologic physical therapists. You live in Texas. Where in Texas? I know people in Texas. Come on, Kieran, don't hold back on me. I'm going to guess Houston. This is fun. It's like a carnival. I can guess your height too if you give me enough time. Okay, well, tell me where in Texas, and I can see if I can help you out as well. Yes, the live classes are online. We do 7 live classes a week at dailydosepd.com, and you can see we send out an email every week with the link, and then you can log into those live classes with the other folks that are doing them from around the country and world, because Wim's here, he's from the Netherlands, and join us live. We can talk to you, you can talk back to us, but we always record those, and that's what we put in our library along with those cognitive videos I was saying. So there's thousands of videos on there.
So I'm going to hold on 1 second, Nate. I am going to stop the recording. So this will look good for YouTube. So thank you for week 3.
Oh, thank you.
Week 4 is coming next week, and we are going to wrap up all the 3 weeks together. So I'm going to thank everybody for watching this video. Thank you for being here, and we will go back to Q&A, but I am going to stop the video recording.